Lately, things have been very rough for Chelsea. No, not lately. For at least a season? 2 seasons? At this point, I don't know what to say. I have very few words for Chelsea. No, I actually have quite a few. Mauricio Pochettino's men have remained consistently inconsistent for as long as we can all remember. 2 years on from Abramovich, and the fans are descending into madness more and more each day. It's what happens when Benny Blanco scores twice against you and you only have one shot on target. Chelsea have continued their Wembley blues and ensured that it remains as a good hunting ground for whoever they're playing against. There's infighting amongst the players, their defense is leaking like a police informant, and on top of all of that, they're about to go trophyless for the 3rd season in a row. It's a terrible situation that they find themselves in, and usually I would revel in the demise of a rival team. However, in these trying times we find ourselves in, I empathize. Is Chelsea beyond repair? Are the players the problem? Is Pochettino the problem? What's going on with Nicolas Jackson, guys? Hello everyone, truly hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel. Seriously, can anybody explain Nicolas Jackson to me? Please? I'm not sure that I'm convinced that he's real. Whenever I watch a full Chelsea match, he puts up a stinker. Whenever I see any highlights about him, they're all stinkers. Chelsea have spent so much money, yet they have no one else as their main striker. I know that this club is cursed when it comes to strikers and all, but damn, man. And I'm not just saying this to pile on or be mean or whatever. I'm sure he has enough people telling him that he's not performing. Plus, he is a black attacker and is out of form. Hopefully someone's taken his phone off him because social media is not the place he wants to be at the moment. He's very clearly a confidence player and he currently has none. I don't know who the more confusing club is at this point. Manchester United with their bizarre showing in the FA Cup, or Chelsea winning 6-0 against Everton and then losing 5-0 against Arsenal in back-to-back league games. Let's go ahead and profile Chelsea at a quick glance so we all know what we're dealing with here. 9th in the table, so they've managed to avoid 10th for the time being. Somehow below Manchester United, and shame on every team below United because it makes no logical sense how they are in the position that they're in based on how they've been playing. I'll bite my tongue because if Chelsea finish above us, I don't know what I'll do with myself. When it comes to goals, they're extremely one-dimensional. We'll talk more about him later on in the video, but Cole Palmer has scored twice as many goals as the player with the 2nd most for Chelsea in the league, with 20. And with 29 goal contributions in the Premier League, he's contributed to 48% of Chelsea's scoring output this season. I think they kind of rely on him. In defense, they've conceded 57 goals in the league, the 8th highest overall. I really meant it when I said they were leaking. The Champions League is out of question, so that's a major revenue stream that I hope they haven't budgeted for. I'd imagine that they haven't, considering that they finished 12th last year and there was so much uncertainty with the project going into this season. Plus, they've stated on multiple occasions that this is a long-term endeavor. As I said, the Wembley Blues have continued to plague them, to the surprise of absolutely nobody. I strongly believe that Chelsea should consider requesting that every big match they have to play is not played at Wembley. At this point, it's just a matter of self-preservation, I think. They've lost in 6 finals at Wembley in a row, the latest of which came this year. As of their loss to Manchester City the other week, which was a semi-final, they've only scored 1 goal at Wembley in their last 7 matches there. It was against Arsenal in the 2020 FA Cup final. They lost 2-1. Earlier in the season, it was Liverpool in the Carabao Cup final, where Gary Neville said those crazy words. He was right, and as a lot of people have put it, this name is gonna stick around for a long time. Liverpool put names in their 20-man matchday squad that Jurgen Klopp himself may not have known up until the day itself. Yes, it was Virgil van Dijk that proved to be the decider here with a real captain's goal, and Kelleher had a fantastic game too, but Chelsea really should have done better considering the quality of the chances they were getting here. It makes you realize why their scoring record is so bad in these situations. It was a lot of poor finishing all round though, to be fair. I went back to look at the average ages of the squad and I realized that this is actually prime pub quiz material for the future, because Chelsea's starting lineup for the day was actually younger than that of Liverpool's, 23 years and 77 days to 24 years and 172 days. But even with that quick fact check, the sentiment remains. Bobby Clark, James McConnell, and Jayden Danns are Liverpool players that had about 18 games of senior experience between all three of them at the time of this match and came on and played their hearts out. The question here is one of experience and belonging. And from the eye test, if I was watching the game with no context, I would say they belonged on the pitch more than those Chelsea players. Tinashe was bad, Gusto was nervous, Chilwell was out of position more often than not, and that's just the defense. Chelsea didn't seem to care in this one. Or if they did care, they didn't want to show it. Or they didn't know how to show it. And that right there is one of the biggest problems with this team. I'll expand upon this idea a bit more later on in the video, but for now, just hold that thought. Chelsea brought their finals energy to their match versus Man City in the FA Cup semi-final. And this match was bizarre. City were the most vulnerable that we've seen them this season, in my opinion. After 120 minutes versus Real Madrid in a Champions League quarterfinal, they had to play in the FA Cup semi-final 72 hours later. A win was kinda there for the taking, so Chelsea did what Chelsea do when they rose to the occasion in typical Chelsea fashion, which is to say they didn't rise at all. City were sloppy. Their passing wasn't as sharp as we know it to be. They were slow to press, particularly in the second half, even late in the first half. It's maybe one of the only times that you can justify being aggressive against this Manchester City side. Nicolas Jackson is currently awaiting trial for war crimes after this match. I don't like his odds for a light sentencing because he should have had a hat-trick, at the very least. Pep Guardiola's side have had a horrendous schedule the past 2 or so weeks. It's of course nothing that they haven't experienced before, and it's also what champions are made of, but Chelsea made this very, very easy for them. Bro, this is a tough headline to read. Poch had to have known that everything was gonna fall apart as soon as these words left his mouth. Without Cole Palmer, Chelsea would likely be in a much, much worse place. Dare I say, a relegation battle? With 20 goals in the league at the time of hosting this video, he's level with Erling Haaland in terms of goals scored, and there are games where he just can't seem to miss. He has to be on the pitch for those conditions to be met though. Going into the Arsenal match, he was ill. And what was the result? Arsenal's biggest victory over Chelsea in Premier League history. Okay, now that wasn't actually Palmer's fault. It's not like he would have organized the defense for them. Benoit Badiashile and Axel Disasi are both liabilities and are extremely mistake prone, which is I guess why they're Chelsea's starting centre-back pairing. Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo don't seem to be working. 100 million a pop, and you can't really rely on them to string together a decent 1-2 on a consistent basis. Fernandez had a pretty good first year in my opinion. His impact, I remember it being really large. Caicedo, he's missed the mark for most of the year, and that's pretty embarrassing considering the whole transfer saga with him and Liverpool and Romeo Lavia, who... Where is Romeo Lavia? At around 3-0, I tweeted that this was revenge for Arsene Wenger's 1000th game in charge, and if Martinelli scored that late chance, we could have seen it all come full circle. Again, Ben White scored twice, while Chelsea only had 1 shot on target all match, which makes no sense when you see that Nicolas Jackson was breaking chances like this. Also, to complete his disaster class, he should have been sent off. I don't really know how he's gotten away with this. Perhaps the ref felt bad for him and didn't want his season to go from terrible to even more terrible. Yeah, but no, seriously, he should have gotten a red card. At this point, the thought dawned upon me that this season has to be some sort of extended production of Pranked for Chelsea fans. Ashton Kutcher's gonna come out at halftime during the last game of the season and make all the pain go away. There is just no organization at the back for this team and no communication. Bukayo Saka found so much freedom on the right-hand side. It was so easy for him to drift into the box. Cucurella really needed help. Maybe all of this goes back to Tuchel and Chelsea's urgency to get rid of him. Not just Tuchel, but the staff around him too, many of whom were at the club since before he came and knew the ins and outs. Fast forward a couple of managers and now we have Pochettino here, who only a few years ago was being heralded as a managerial genius. Now all we hear about are his tactical ineptitudes and inability to control his players and establish a hierarchy. For example, bringing on Raheem Sterling at the death against City even though they needed a goal, and he scored twice against them already this season. There was a scene against Everton where Chelsea were awarded a penalty. Palmer has notably been their designated taker for I don't know how long. Regardless, Noni Madueke and Nicolas Jackson were trying to stamp their claim. They were 4 goals up. This is ludicrous behavior, and it's not even the only time that this has happened. It happened against Manchester United the other week. Before that too. Chelsea were trailing in this match, okay? You need your top guy to take the pen. From what I could ascertain, Madueke is a good penalty taker. He scored 8 out of 11 in his career so far, so it's not like he's a bad option. But that's hardly the point here. This isn't the sort of thing that you'd expect from experienced professionals. God knows what's going on in that dressing room. There's a clip of Thiago Silva crying after the FA Cup loss to City, and Noni Madueke laughing in the background. It paints a telling picture. Thiago Silva being on his way out is very worrying. What little semblance of stability they have at the back stems from the longevity and experience of the 39-year-old. But he deserves a break. It's time for him to take that Champions League winners medal and enjoy himself at Fluminense. Of course, if he had gone back there a year ago when it was rumored he would do so, he would also have a Copa Libertadores. Anyway, I mentioned Raheem Sterling earlier on and how maybe he should have been brought on against City late on. After all, at a whopping 10 years younger than Thiago Silva, he is the second most senior player in that team, or in that regular squad at the very least. All the same, he should be doing better than he currently is, and I haven't even mentioned yet that I believe he is the club's highest earner. And then a decision that's definitely not going down that well around Chelsea is that Conor Gallagher is probably going to be sold because he's an academy graduate and will basically be pure profit for this team. On paper, his sale will go a long way towards making Chelsea compliant with all the financial regulations, and that right there is where another of Chelsea's big problems lie. Even though he is their captain and is more often than not the only player there that actually looks like they care. Chelsea as a footballing establishment don't seem to care though, because that right there, that's money bags. After the Carabao Cup final loss, Pochettino didn't sugarcoat it for his players. They need to feel the pain. He wanted them to feel the full force of responsibility here. Have they learned from this experience? I don't know. It's widely believed that the main reason that Pochettino was brought into Chelsea was owing to his ability to get the best out of young players. Now, based on what we've seen, I'm not sure if he's had so much luck. On a side note, there was a really touching moment last week after Chelsea had defeated Everton where Poch was interviewed by Dele Alli, who made his punditry debut on Sky Sports. It's great to see. Ali's best days were with Poch, and that effect is what Todd Boehly and Clear Lake Capital were after, I'm sure of it. Pochettino has lost so much stock this season. To be fair to him, if I'm not mistaken, almost all the players, if not all of them, weren't his signings, and he's had to make do. But he certainly deserves some blame here. Perhaps he could blame the injury list. Like everyone knows, injuries are a part of it all. However, isn't that why they've gone ahead and bought so many players over the last few years? With the fees that they've been paying, you'd think that they would be checking injury records for them too. Or maybe it's an internal problem with training or nutrition or whatever once players enter the club. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and act like I know better than a multi-billion-pound company that is probably paying the best and brightest minds on the planet to get the best out of their assets being their players in this situation. All I'm saying is that there is very clearly something wrong going on there, and it's so obvious that an idiot like me can see. In any case, when it comes to Poch, I doubt he's going anywhere. Not just because there are very few top quality managerial choices on the market at the moment. Even if there were, Chelsea would be competing with the likes of Liverpool, Barcelona, and Bayern Munich. Who knows how the situation at Manchester United will be too. It's an uncertain landscape. You'll notice that I've only briefly mentioned the £1 billion so far in this video, and that's because we already all know the deal. Chelsea's overall strategy and plan has been clear as day to anybody that's been paying attention. They're trying to buy a ton of young players that are going to stay at the club for a very long time, build up some impeccable chemistry together, and then consistently win the best trophies over very many years. To play devil's advocate here, it seems we've all forgotten that they're only 2 years into said project, and we also need to realize that we've become accustomed to the revolving door model of football clubs and coaching staff, which is why the impatience is so high. Is it fair? Some might say no. I would say it is what it is. And to flip back from being devil's advocate and come back to reality, Chelsea haven't finished lower than 4th in 2 seasons in a row since 2002. Something has to change. It's times like this when we all have to look back and think to ourselves, what would life be like if Mykhailo Mudryk went to Arsenal instead? If he did, Arsenal probably wouldn't have gotten Leandro Trossard. It's food for thought. Would Arteta have made him into a great player by now? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Before I finish this video, I feel like I just have to mention that there is no passion, there is no vision, there is no aggression, and there is no mindset in this football club. Rest in peace to Angry Rant Man. If any of you don't know, this is Abradeep Saha, otherwise known as Angry Rant Man. You definitely know some of his legendary Chelsea rants. Sadly, his family confirmed that he passed on at the age of 27 earlier in this month. A massive loss to the world, to the footballing community, that's for sure. Our thoughts are with his family. And on that note, there we have it. Hope you guys enjoyed, hope you're having a great day, hope you're taking care of yourselves and your families. That's all for me today. Cheers, and I will catch you in the next one.